On a cold Halloween night, the wind howled through the trees in a quiet town, swirling leaves around the darkened houses. Most children were huddled inside, sharing their candy loot and laughing over costumes, but not Ella, Sam, and Maximum. They had a plan that led them to the old Miller house, a place no one in town dared to enter. The Miller house had a spooky reputation. Some people said it was haunted by Mrs. Miller, an old woman who used to live alone and never talked to anyone. She was rumored to have strange powers, and after she disappeared one Halloween many years ago, no one dared go near her house. Strange lights would flicker in the windows, and an eerie humming could sometimes be heard. Ella, the bravest of the group, led the way. "It's just an empty house," she said, more to convince herself than anyone else. Sam and Max followed, both looking a little pale under the streetlights. They walked up the narrow path lined with thorny bushes, feeling the chill of the October night seep into their bones. As they approached the house, the front door creaked open, as if inviting them inside. They hesitated, staring into the dark entryway, but curiosity got the better of them. They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing on the wooden floorboards. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. Shadows stretched along the walls, and the air smelled old, like dust and decay. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut, making them all jump. "Did you feel that?" Max asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What?" Sam asked, looking around nervously. "It felt like someone just brushed past me," Max replied, shivering. Ignoring the creeping fear, they moved deeper into the house. They came to a long hallway with doors on either side. Each door had a strange symbol carved into it, and as they walked past, they felt a chill running down their spines. They decided to enter one of the rooms on the left. Inside, they found a small table with a dusty crystal ball sitting in the center. Ella couldn't resist. She reached out and brushed her hand over the crystal ball. The ball began to glow faintly, casting an eerie light across the room. Suddenly, a cold voice filled the air. "Why have you come here?" it asked. They froze, looking at each other in horror. Who's there?" Sam stammered. "You have disturbed my home," the voice replied, sounding closer now, though they couldn't see anyone. They turned to leave, but the hallway seemed longer than before, stretching out endlessly in front of them. A dark figure appeared at the end of the hall, floating just above the ground. It looked like Mrs. Miller, her face twisted in anger, her eyes cold and unblinking. "You will not leave until you learn respect," she said, her voice like ice. They tried to turn back, but each door they opened led to the same hallway, the same eerie figure at the end, slowly drifting closer. Panicking, Ella remembered the stories about Mrs. Miller and her crystal ball. "Maybe the crystal ball is the key," she whispered, grabbing it and holding it up. As she did, the figure hesitated, flickering as if caught between worlds. "Return what was taken," the figure commanded, her voice softening, almost pleading. "What do you mean?" Max asked, confused. Then they remembered the rumor. Mrs. Miller had once owned a golden locket that had gone missing the night she disappeared. Legend said that her spirit wouldn't rest until it was returned. They frantically searched the room, and under a loose floorboard, they found it, a golden locket with a picture of a young Mrs. Miller inside. As Ella held it up, the house seemed to sigh, as if relieved. They placed the locket on the table, and a calm warmth filled the room. The ghostly figure smiled, her face softening. "Thank you," she whispered before disappearing into a soft mist. Suddenly, the hallway was back to normal, the doors leading to the front of the house. They rushed out, not stopping until they were far down the street. As they looked back, they saw the old house standing in silence, its windows dark once more. The next morning, Ella, Sam, and Max told their friends about their Halloween adventure, but no one believed them. Yet they knew the truth. The old Miller house was haunted, but now, maybe, the ghost of Mrs. Miller could finally rest. And every Halloween after, they would leave a small gift by the gate, just to keep the spirit of Mrs. Miller at peace.